Hi, this is Dr. Nick. I'm the incrementalist here with incremental insights for better business, better health.
And I'm Fred Goldstein with Accountable Health, here working with employers to help improve their employee programs around health and benefits. And Nick, a lot of changes in COVID over the past year plus that we've been doing this, and particularly around what we've learned with mitigation strategies. So, what's up with all that now?
Yeah, science is a continually developing activity. We continue to add knowledge. We change our thinking as we learn more about the world around us. We start to change the way that we understand things. Just think of atoms. Prior to the discovery of the atoms, people didn't think that there were these small things. And even when we got to the atom, they said, right, that's the most indivisible thing on the planet. Well, actually, it turns out it's not, because it's made up of, some smaller particles, and potentially it's made up of strings, depending on whether you believe string theory or not. Well, not believe, but, the concept of string theory. And this is true in the pandemic. We've continued to learn, but what are the key things that we've learned, and the changes in terms of the way that we understand? And I would say the biggest thing has been the change to the aerosol versus droplets. And everybody gets tripped up. What does this all mean? Why do I care? Isn't a droplet an aerosol? And so let's try and break this down. It's really a function of the size. And droplets are bigger, and what happens to droplets? They go blue and fall to the ground very quickly, so they don't spread. Aerosols, light, float on the wind, just like you see in the fall with a leaf fluttering by, and it continues to sort of catch, and that spreads the disease. We have changed the way that we think about it. When we started, we didn't believe that that was the spread, and that's caused differences in the way that we sort of address how we mitigate this disease.
Absolutely, and moved us to why we need to be wearing masks indoors. And I think, one of the things is we've looked at this, and it's been fascinating. I know you're interested in a lot of different areas of science. You just talked about some physics, et cetera. I know we're interested in space and all these things, and you're a physician, so you've got that whole biological component too. It's been fascinating to watch all the different scientists get involved in this, and we see that expertise. An article comes out from a physics professor or an engineering person or a physician or an epidemiologist, and that's really allowed us to advance this. And that whole issue of aerosols is important to understand, because it really is clear now that these indoor spaces are the difficult ones, and it's not necessarily always a 6-foot distance that's critical. These have shown, in this one study, up to 60 feet. But it makes sense if you think about it. If it's that leaf floating around in the air or something even lighter, and you have a number of people indoors, you may walk through some cloud of leaves, that get blown by and be exposed. And that's why indoors at this point is still important to be wearing a mask.
Yeah, I think great point. And it also brings up one of the other changes that we've seen. It took a while for the guidance to take up, and that's because of the conservative nature, appropriately so, for the CDC and other groups that are now saying, you know what, this surface cleaning, not quite as important as we thought it was. And, I got to look back at my own experience. I'm pretty sure I had some gloves. I don't know that I was really rigorous about wearing them, but maybe I was in the early days. I think I quickly realized as we moved from this different transmission, and I saw some of the studies. In fact, in our course that we developed together, Fred, we even talked about how long things last. The reality is it doesn't last long. And, just regular hand washing is actually more than sufficient, this wiping down. But we're still doing it. The question is, are we going to see that continue? Does it need to continue? I think the science says not. But, there's even technology driving that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking, you point out with this technology, my Apple Watch, which now has this feature or a function that checks when you're washing your hands for 20 seconds. As that was the recommendation early on, Apple said, well, let's jump in and drop that into the watch. Now, it may be a good idea just in general to be washing your hands for 20 seconds, but it's not necessarily a COVID-related issue at this point like it was before.
And, importantly, is there a gender difference in the watches that they issue? Because we know that men need more prompting for this. Based on the studies in the men's restroom, the shockingly low number of people that walk out, less than 30%, whereas In the female restrooms, we're talking over 70%.
You had to go there, Nick. So maybe we need a little better incentive on this one. That not only should my watch ask me a question at the end, were you washing your hands because you didn't hit 20 seconds? Perhaps it should just zap me and get me going as a behavior modification approach.
All right, so you're recommending that Apple introduces zapping watch. I like it, Fred. I'm sure they're going to take that up. That will be ideal. I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of women out there that are saying, yeah, please do that too. And I agree with them. Let's be clear. I don't understand.
Absolutely. You know, and as part of this, Nick, one of the things that's fascinating too is what we've seen these mitigation strategies do around other respiratory diseases.
Yeah. So, in fact, what's happened is with all of this intervention, what do we see with the flu rates in the Southern Hemisphere? Almost, I want to say I heard 1 or 2 cases. I'm sure it was more than that, but, completely disappeared. And the same here. And that's because of all of this introduction of this, better cleanliness. And that's the thing I would take out of the 1918 pandemic. That information got dissipated, but much slower than it is now because they didn't have the communication. People brought it back to where they were living and working, and they introduced all these public health measures. So if we learn one thing is don't drop the ball in terms of doing this, pick the science, pick what's right, and continue to do that because it's good all round. This is not going to be the last infection that sweeps around the world.
Absolutely. Hopefully many of these practices will continue. Obviously allowing people to do things in a more normal manner. It's not about controlling things, but certain practices would make some sense to keep these illnesses down in the future and help the next pandemic from just blowing up like this one did. So with that, this is Fred Goldstein with Accountable Health. Thanks so much for listening. If you'd like more information, please go to accountablehealthllc.com.
And this is Dr. Nick. I'm the Incrementalist here with Incremental Insights for better business, better health.